Okay, so thank you for coming to this talk. My name is Justin Collins. You can find me at President Beef on the internet. If you want to contact me, Twitter is the best way. And you're at LastCon 2019. And this talk is called The End of the AppSec Team. And I want to set expectations up early. The purpose of this talk is to engage your brain and thinking about the future and thinking about how we can get to a different future. And it's not so much about telling you what the future is going to be or how we're going to get there. It's just me engaging my brain and trying to think about the future. So hopefully I've set that up enough. I do also want to have another disclaimer here, emphasis on team. I'm not proposing that application security is going away. I'm not expecting that our jobs as application security engineers is going to go away. I'm talking about the team itself. Okay. As kind of mentioned, I've been on the application security side at a few different companies, web application security mostly, and we'll be joining Gusto soon, but that doesn't count as experience because I haven't experienced it yet. Along the way, I also created a static analysis tool for Ruby on Rails called Brakeman, and then for a few years worked on a commercial version of it called Brakeman Pro, and then that was acquired by Synopsys, and then I worked at Synopsys for a year as a senior software engineer on a C++ project, which was so far out of my actual skill set. But it was an interesting experience to be just a software developer for a little while. And it was interesting to see, Synopsys is a massive company, it's like 12,000 employees. And it was interesting to see, as a software engineer, how did I interact with the security team? How did they do things? And how did it affect my daily work? All those kinds of things. And to sum it up, actually, I didn't see any of that. As just a software engineer, I never really felt the presence of security. I only knew about it because I was friends with someone on the security team who happened to sit near me. That was it. Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. I just want to give you an idea of my background. And as I'm pointing out here, I've only actually worked on 3 security teams, AT&T Interactive, Twitter, and SurveyMonkey. And yet, and that comprised 7 years or so of experience. And yet, I still got to a point where I wasn't really happy with it. In fact, having that year off was really nice. It gave me some perspective on things. Okay. So I want to talk about the future. And the future 10 years from now is 2029. And so again, I want to try to get in the mode. This is not a talk where you're gonna kind of zone out and then at the end you're gonna write down the points that I made and be happy with where you ended up. Try to follow along with me, please. We're thinking about the future. We're thinking about our jobs in the future, application security in the future, and what it's going to look like. Fortunately, someone made a movie about it. And I'm here to tell you that actually we don't have to worry about it all because in the future, in 2029, we will only be fighting robots and we'll probably offensive security will be much more important. But anyways, the first Terminator movie I found, it says, "In the year of darkness, 2029. However, I already gave a conference talk that was Terminator themed, so I'm not going to do that again, so you're safe. All right, so here's a question that I've been thinking about. Are AppSec teams just destined to fail? Has anyone else thought about this? All right, a couple of people, yeah. Start thinking, are we just destined to fail? Well, what do I mean? Okay, I tried to list out some things, and keeping in mind that I haven't been on an AppSec team for a year, so I did have to think back a little bit. What are all the things that fall into an AppSec team's responsibilities? And these are just things that definitely fall on the AppSec team. Then there are all the other things that you also do because you're covering other aspects of security, not just AppSec. And I feel like this is a lot of things. And I don't know how we have time to do all of these things. I think this was a Denim group, to download ThreadFix or something, but I saw this in my, I tweeted this out some years ago, because it was just so perfect. Okay, size of application security team. The options were just me, less than 5, or more than 5. Those were the only options. I thought someone really nailed this one, right? So here's an example. This is 96 developers and 4 application security people, which actually is a decent ratio. But that's still, I think just seeing it visually is oh, actually, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of developers. And they are essentially creating this tsunami of work for the application security team. And that work is comprised of a lot of things. Oh, by the way, this is what the team looks like when you zoom in. I spent a lot of time on that. Okay, all these things are coming in, right? And the team is just feeling like this is a lot of stuff. Yeah, quick question. Quick question. What key size should I use to encrypt this data? And you go, wait a second, what data are you encrypting? Why are you encrypting it? Where are you storing it? Where are you putting the keys that you're asking about? And then that's half your day gone, right? Just to emphasize further, what I felt like, and I gave it a name, I guess I just like to give things names. I felt like it was just this AppSec grind that I ended up in, where it's okay, there's always way too many design or project reviews or whatever to do. There's always way too many code reviews. I think we've all kind of reached a point where we realize the security team can't review all the code. There's always bug bounties coming in, new CVEs, reports coming in from different tools. And then there's just security incidents happening all the time that we have to deal with. And then there's people saying, hey, I have a quick question for you. And you just, honestly, I feel like this is just, you just get stuck in okay, I'm just doing this. This is all I have time to do, and it's not even, I don't even have enough time to do this. And then when you're doing your planning, you go, okay, next quarter or maybe next year, we'll do some work that actually has systemic impact on the company. We're going to schedule that in, right, as soon as we get done with this stuff. Are people feeling like this is accurate, or was it just me? Okay, heads are nodding. Okay, all right, so we're in the same place. Well, the problem is obvious, isn't it? There are 96 developers and only 4 people on the AppSec team. There are not enough people. And I'm sorry to keep, maybe I should just move. I'm going to fix this problem. And probably make the camera guy much happier. Haha, all right. Okay. I'm going to try not to destroy these cables. All right, much better. Okay, clearly the team is too small, and the answer is obvious. Hire more people. And I will be honest, I've been at conferences like this, and you sit down at a table and someone says, hey, our team has too much work. We're just trying to hire more people. We just have too much work. Our team is too small. We're just trying to hire more people, which is totally rational. But how many people are you going to hire? First of all, it's really hard to hire AppSec people. I don't know if you've experienced that, but it's really hard to hire AppSec people. How are you going to hire enough to match all the developers? Are you going to have a team this big? No. I can tell you that you will not have a team this big. But it seems like we never really think this through, right? We kind of get stuck at this stage. Oh, our team's too small, we're trying to grow our security team. Everyone's trying to grow their security teams, or they don't have one. And in the future, they're going to be trying to grow their security team. So, oh, I forgot this part. Problem solved. I spent a lot of time on that. Okay. Dave Lindner at LocoMocoSec earlier this year, he had this slide and he said I could borrow it. There's no numbers on this though, so I think this might have been made up, but I think it's accurate. The top line is how much code is being written. The middle line is our budget to buy tools to deal with all the code that's being written. And then the bottom line is how many people we have that we can hire who are specialized in security. And this gap, he termed the software security crisis. But I think this is just another way of representing what was on the previous slides, that there's just too much code being written too quickly for us to keep up with. Now, you might think, probably you won't, but let's imagine, maybe your friend would think, okay, the problem is there's too much code being written too quickly. So if we just slowed down how quickly we were writing code, then we could catch up. No, like have you ever been or heard of a company where they're like, yes, well, we have quarterly releases, and that gives our security team enough time to actually review everything. Like, no, it actually doesn't work, right? And I think probably we all know, and I'm not going to talk about it in this talk, but actually faster is better. It's better for everyone. It's better for security. It's better for the business. It's better for developers. Faster is better. So we don't want to slow things down. We don't want people to write less code unless it makes sense to do so. So what do we do? Well, we know the people won't scale. We can't hire enough people to meet the amount of code coming out of development. So we should throw some automation on it, right? That's how we scale. We throw automation on it. Problem solved. Well, of course, it's not solved just by automation. I gave this talk with my colleagues Neil Matatal and Alex Smolin, actually in Austin at AppSec USA when it was hosted by LastCon. And we gave this talk about the automation work that we had done at Twitter. And I hate to bring this up, but people bring it up to me. And they say, hey, I really loved your talk. Like, I heard this last year. Okay. I really loved your talk about automation at Twitter, and I want to do that. And I said, that was 2012. If you're thinking, oh, all we need to do is get some automation, and like our AppSec problems are solved, to me, and I don't want to insult, this is not to be insulting. This is just like, maybe this is just where I am, but I'm like, that was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. If you're just trying to get to that point, you're way, way, way behind where you need to be. You need it. You need to automate as much as you can. You have to do that. But that's not where you can't stop there. That's not the whole solution. And I don't want to feel like I'm just telling you things and like telling you how people are wrong. I was also wrong about this, okay? You can go back to my talks where I'm promoting Brakeman and how wonderful it is to just automate all your security, and you can go back to that talk. You can go back to this talk, right? Oh yeah, just automate everything. Just automate, and then it makes everything, and then you have time to do all those design reviews and all all that other stuff. Well, no, actually it's not enough. Who has said this? I'm sorry, who has heard their friend say this? I have said this, and lots of people say this. And not just in this context, in lots of contexts people say this. And it's not wrong. Everybody needs to be involved in security. It's not wrong, but when there's a security issue, does the HR team get paged for that? Well, maybe. That was a bad example. Probably not, right? The security team gets paged. Well, doesn't that mean that security is actually the security team's job? It's also in the name of their team, security team. So how can it be everyone's job? We have a team that deals with that. I really like this tweet. It's a little bit old now. This was Matt Conda, but he was quoting Michael Coates, who I used to work for. And I think this encapsulated in 2016 when I saw this really encapsulated how I felt. The security team says no to things, right? Can I use this new tool? No. Can I deploy to this new cloud thing? No. Can I open up this port? No. They say no because they are incorrectly held accountable for all flaws. When there's a security flaw, you talk to the security team. And then someone says, hey, security team, how come we had this security flaw? And really, it's like, well, wait a second. I didn't write the probably didn't write the code that has the, if I did, then it's my fault. But like, I probably didn't write the code that has the flaw, but I'm being held accountable as part of the security team. So when we say security is everyone's job, I don't think actually that's where we are today. But maybe we can get there. And I want to think about this a little bit deeper. Security is everyone's job. Okay. Let's say I'm not a security person and someone tells me security is everyone's job, that means it's my job. This is my job. I have an actual job, and I have, I don't know, let's say 7 hours a day to do it. And then you're asking me to also add I know this is a beautiful diagram. I spent a lot of time on it. Security, this thing that I don't even really know what it is, it's kind of this amorphous blob. You're saying, put that into my job too. And I don't know what that means, and that's like, I don't have time for that. Honestly, if I was not a security person and someone said security is also your job, I'd be like, I have a real job, right? Let's look at some quotes. This was Gene Kim at LocoMocoSec 2018. Put it kind of concisely. This was out of his research looking at high-performing IT organizations. And this was some data that had come out. And he said, high performers, because they are integrating information security objectives into everyone's daily work, are spending half as much time remediating security issues compared to companies that are not doing this. Okay, so that sounds like a good thing. Half as much time spending remediating security issues. So either they have fewer issues or they fix them faster. Either way, it's good. From the White Hat Security, Application Security, so you can read that. They said organizations that successfully embed security into DevOps experience a 50% drop in their production vulnerabilities, and their time to fix improves by 25%. So fewer vulnerabilities in production, and they fix them faster. These sound like good things. I don't know why I looked at the screen. I don't have the slides here, that's why I keep turning around. The DevOps handbook, it says, in high-performing organizations, quality, availability, and security aren't the responsibility of individual departments, but are a part of everyone's job every day. Okay, so maybe we do want it to be everyone's job. And you might be thinking, oh, I know what's going on here. This is a DevOps talk, isn't it? Or maybe it's a DevSecOps talk. It's not. It's not. It's not exactly. It's not what you think, probably. However, I have been reading this book, and I recommend that you read the first several chapters of this book. After the first several chapters, it goes into like it's like implementation details, and it's only, I mean, you should probably read that too, but the first few chapters really hit home for me in terms of how software is delivered, the things that get in the way, security, and how to get out of the way. So it's really good, and I really recommend you read it. And you can go back to an appendix where it talks about the talk from 2012. Okay. So let's think about why DevOps, or let's talk about why DevOps. This is the situation that DevOps arose out of, right? You have developers on one side, and you have operations on the other side, and there's a wall in between. The developers write their code, they bundle it up, maybe in like a jar file or something, and then they say, okay, operations, deploy it and run it, and if it falls over, you get paged. Right? This is like the core of like how DevOps sprung out, right? Throw it, and the term is, they threw the code over the wall to operations. You could also think about QA the same way. Developers write the code, bundle it up in some way, send it to QA, QA tests it, and then, maybe they send stuff back over the wall, back over to the developers. I think DBA team similar. Hey, DBA team, I need a new database. Hey, I need to change a table. Can you do this for me? Let me open a ticket. Now it's your responsibility. AppSec, isn't it exactly the same? Hey, AppSec team, I wrote some code. Can you review it? Hey, AppSec team, I have this idea, or we're going to implement this feature. Can you just give me your security stamp? Like, just stamp it and then move on, right? And I experienced this, and I started getting like a little bit annoyed because I realized that developers weren't coming to me because they wanted, this is a generalization, but I started to feel like they weren't coming to me because they wanted to learn about security. They just wanted to say, the security team said this was okay, I'm going to do it now. So again, just throwing it over the wall to AppSec, it's exactly the same situation, exactly the same. So let's talk about the problem with walls. You can't see through a wall. At least not this wall that I've put here with bricks, made out of bricks. You can't see through the wall. And that's a problem. If I'm working on a team and you're working on a team and I can't see what you're doing, there's a disconnect, right? There's a problem of non-locality, right? If I'm over here and you're over there, you're a developer, you're writing code, and then you say, hey, AppSec person, can you review this? Can you give me your opinion, et cetera? Well, I'm all the way over here on the other side of the wall. I don't have the context to actually give you good advice in a lot of cases. Not every case, but again, in my world here, right? There's a problem with inconsistency. I don't think this is as big of an issue for security, but, well, a little bit, right? So, I ran my tests on my machine, they passed. I give it to you, they don't pass. Well, the problem is, of course, we're divided by this wall. We're not in the same place. Things over here are different than things over there. From a security perspective, you might be like, well, I looked at the staging server, everything was cool. But in production, there's a security issue. Why? Because the environments are different. Same problem. Walls also cause long feedback cycles. You throw it over the wall, you wait for it to come back, right? The wall, you could think of the wall as Jira, right? Or maybe your in-house ticketing system, right? You open a ticket, you wait, you have no idea what's happening over there, you don't know what their process is, you don't know if they're even gonna see it, you don't know when it's gonna get done, and then at some point, something comes back to you, right? And usually that's like, ticket has been assigned to someone. And this creates long feedback cycles. And if you know DevOps, you know that long feedback cycles are bad. And we don't want that. And the final thing about walls is this transfer of responsibility that I was talking about, right? When I throw it over the wall, I did my job. Now it's their job, right? And as we showed before, there's not enough people on the other side of the wall to do the job, right? Okay, you probably see where I'm going with this. So let's think about, again, this is sort of like in the DevOps context, yes. How did operations become everyone's job? Well, infrastructure became code, right? So this, you got to like put yourself in the position of, I'm an operations person, someone needs a new server. Okay, maybe I'll like get a box somewhere, I don't know. Or like I'm gonna create a VM. I don't know, if you're Windows, maybe you have to like check out a license from somewhere. And then I'm gonna go through and like click on things until I get the environment set up. Those days, for most people, I think are gone, right? It's, oh, I write a configuration file, or I just run some configuration file that's already been written, and it's done. And if I wanna change it, I can go into a code repo and I can change it, and it's tracked and so on and so on. This is, of course, ideal world, but this is the world that we're moving towards. Right, I gotta go a little bit faster. Deployments no longer involve, let me hand you some code, and then you're gonna figure out how to get it onto a machine, and it's gonna run, right? Deployments are automatic. I merge the code, it goes out, it's deployed. Or I press a button and it's deployed. It doesn't involve opening a ticket for the operations team. If you're doing that, you're lost, right? In terms of IT, like the world will leave you behind. New environments created on demand, new services on demand. Again, not opening tickets for another team to do work, right? And alerts, logs, metrics, et cetera, are no longer, oh, the ops team looks at the dashboards, right? It's generally open to everyone, and I want to be careful here because actually some things you don't need everyone in the company to have access to, like logs, sometimes they're sensitive. But in general, in your IT, in your engineering department, people have access to look at the logs themselves, to receive alerts themselves, to set up alerts themselves, right? And that's how operations has become everyone's job. It's not, oh, I'm putting something on your plate. It's, I'm giving you access to do it yourself. QA is everyone's job. You know, test-driven development, or at least developers write the tests, not a separate QA team. Tests can be run on development machines or in an environment that a developer controls, not, oh, let me ship it off somewhere and someone will run tests and they'll fail because it's not like my environment. I'm setting this up not because I want you to like change how your teams work, but I think I'm going somewhere with this, okay? I'm going somewhere. Feature flags on for employees. You deploy a new feature, it's off for almost everyone, but your employees it's on for. Everyone just became QA. QA just became everyone's job, assuming that they're using your product at work. That's kind of cool, right? Like, you've completely flipped it. There's no QA team. Everyone's QA. QA is everyone's job. And it's not because it's become something extra. It's just as part of your daily work, you might run into a bug, and then you tell someone to fix it. Or you open a ticket and someone addresses it, right? Or if you're a developer, you address it yourself. Okay, DBA, you see where I'm going with this. It's not, let me open a ticket for the DBA team. All right, so let's talk, with all that in mind, how does security become everyone's job? This is what I came up with, but let me go back to what I said at the beginning of the talk. I just want you to think about this. Think in the context of the things we just said about how QA, DBA, ops, how these became everyone's job. How can we use that same idea to make security everyone's job? And this is what I came up with in terms of what has to happen to the application security work. First of all, well, it needs to be one of these three things needs to happen for any particular piece of work. It needs to disappear. I'll go through these. I'll go through suggestions about maybe how this could happen. But it needs to disappear, right? It needs to be something that just like no one's thinking about anymore. It just happens. Or it needs to be something that's just integrated into development, normal, everyday work, right? Or three, it needs to be something that is actionable alerts, or actually I like Tanya's point this morning where there's an alert, but then some action automatically happens and I don't even have to do anything. That's also good. Sorry, that's better. But the point is, okay, so either I don't worry about it, or it's something I always do, it's just part of my work, and not additional, it's just part of how I do my job. Or it's something, okay, when it hits production or something, it becomes an alert, and I take action. All right, let's go through these. These are just suggestions. Again, I'm not trying to give you a prescription on how to do this. I'm just trying to get the wheels turning on how we solve this AppSec grind, which I'm just personally kind of tired of. If you're not tired of it and you love it, then you're okay. But I think we'll all get to the point where we realize this just isn't working. Okay. Disappearing security. Automated dependency updates, this is now reality, right? And I know there's downsides to this, but really, why don't we just update all the time? It's better in the long run to update all the time. It's like shipping code all the time. It's a little bit of pain all the time, as opposed to, let's stop everything for like several days to do updates, right? Let's just update all the time. If you are deploying to some kind of system, how come every time I deploy, I don't just have a brand new environment that's fully patched? Now, if you're familiar with DevOps, this will not surprise you, but you have to have like a really good test suite to get to this point, right? You have to be confident that when my tests pass, everything's working. Then you can do these things. Security needs to be built into our frameworks and our libraries, and I would encourage you, if you are at a company and you're like, yeah, we have like our own libraries, we have our own patches that we put for the framework, contribute, if you're using open source, contribute it back, right? Share it with everyone so that not everyone has to go and do the same things that you've done. APIs that are secure by default. I know this sounds silly, okay? But the transformation of going from, we have stuff that's unsafe and you have to make sure you call it in the safe way, to, hey, when you call this, it's just safe. And if you want to do it the unsafe way, it's really hard, maybe impossible, and also it'll get flagged in our code review, et cetera. It's a total transformation. And it just disappears. Oh, I don't have to worry about it. I call the API. I know someone's thought about security, and the way I call it is going to be safe. Sort of the same thing, but environments that are secure by default. If I'm deploying to a server, I expect that someone else has figured out how to do the infrastructure and the platform so that it's secure. All right. This was a tweet from September. And it says, so this just happened. A bot found a vulnerability in a dependency. A bot sent a PR, a pull request, to fix it. The CI verified the pull request. A bot merged the pull request. And then a bot celebrated the merge with a GIF down here. If you go and find this tweet, there were some people that were not as positive about this as I felt. And obviously this person felt. But wow, like this is work that disappeared. It's visible, but no one had to manually do it. It just worked. It just happened. Dependency was updated. Done. All right. If we can't make it disappear, how can we integrate it into people's work? I think code reviews just include like a security checklist that people are trained on. And I think the recommendation is like, 4 to 8 things. You can pick out the top ones, right? Things being escaped properly, authorization, authentication, et cetera. Whatever makes sense for your organization. Developers doing, I hate the term threat modeling, but doing threat modeling on their own, not saying, oh, this is the security team's job to think of all these things. Well, go back to the wall, right? Like, if the security team's over there and the development team's over here, and you're saying, hey, can you look at this and come up with ways that it's insecure? Okay, well, let me like download the entire context of what you're building. It doesn't make sense, right? Development teams should be doing this themselves. And as security professionals, we can help them learn how to do so. Security tests in the test suite, security scans being automated, or at least on demand if possible, but preferably automated on every, at this point, probably like every pull request is sufficient. And I want to make I know I already said this, but I wanted to make a special note about code review. And this is in the DevOps handbook. And I read it and I was like, oh yeah, of course. Code should be peer reviewed. AppSec Team is not peers of the developers in the sense of like working on the same team, working on the same code base, being familiar with the context. And that's what that says. So we need to enable developers to be doing security as part of their regular code review when you're looking at, let's say, a pull request and you have to get approval from someone. Normally it's someone on your team, right, to merge it. Well, security should just be a part of what they're glancing through when they look at that. And again, to go back to, remember the picture of 96 developers, 4 security, 4 AppSec people. Of course we can't review every code change, but every code change should be reviewed. By who? By their peers, the people on their team. So we just have to introduce security into that process and then we're done, for the most part. I mean, what are you really going to catch as an application security person that a senior engineer on a team isn't, if they're given the resources, right? They're going to probably do a better job. All right, security alerts, okay, they have to be actionable. They need to not go to the security team. Security team should probably be copied, but it should be going to the people who can affect change, who understand the context. That's the developers. Okay, let's go back to this list. And I want to give you an example of a way of taking this list of responsibilities and making it not the AppSec team's responsibility. This is just an example. If you look at this and you say, Justin, that's stupid and it's just an example, just an idea. All right. So this is taking things from that list and figuring out what teams it actually makes sense for those responsibilities to live with. As we talked about, reviewing designs, code changes, adding tests, doing threat modeling, even looking at tool results and bug bounties. That's kind of actually developers' team job. Now I know that looking at tool results and looking at bug bounty results, we don't really want to just dump that on developers, but again, we're talking about the future here. Let's imagine it's a better world. And we are able to pass those results directly to developers, maybe with help, right? Not just like, hey, this is your job now, but like, hey, like, okay, let me back up and talking about where I'm coming from with this. Somebody has to look at these results. Are you going to take, as the AppSec team, and read all of these results? Like, you're going to run out of time, right? So we have to figure out how to spread this work around. Okay. Automation of tools, security alerts, secure libraries. If you have like a platforms, a developer tools team, an infrastructure team, it can be called different things. That's where that should live, right? Those are the experts in those areas. Incident management. Please let an incident management team manage incidents, please. I don't know, we can outsource training of developers and doing pen tests. Now, there's a key point that is not on the slide. This does not mean you say, okay, developers, this is your job now. I think a better idea is, why don't we take someone who has AppSec expertise and put them on that team, maybe temporarily. Put them on a platform. Hey, I want to understand how we're writing tools, how we're automating things, and I have some things I want to automate. Can I join your team for a little while? Don't join the incident management team, but we're going to help. And outsourcing, of course, you don't have to outsource, but what I found is I like doing training. I like training people. I don't know that I'm good at it, but I like doing it. And I never felt like I had enough, like I need like a month to sit down and do a nice training course, right? There's a reason that training courses cost so much. it's a lot of time and effort to put material together. And I never felt like, even though I enjoyed doing it, that I was giving developers the training they really needed and deserved at the quality level they deserved. So again, this is just trying to figure out what things does an AppSec team actually have to do. This next slide is not the things that I think the AppSec team needs to do, it's just the things that were left from the list, because I want to be honest with you. These are the two things that I left off. Triaging results from pen tests and creating security champions. Well, of course, you can't really outsource creating security champions, but if you are embedded on different teams, your presence will help create security champions. Actually, I don't like security champions because I think everyone should be a security champion, right? And again, I feel like maybe dumping pen test results on people, well, I know people are sensitive about that, so we need to figure out a better way. I don't have a solution, but if you do, again, the talk is to get you thinking. Okay. Let's bring it all kind of back together here. My proposal is that we should not have AppSec teams, okay? If that hasn't come through already. That's the proposal, that we should not have a team called the AppSec team. Like we should not have a team called the QA team, okay? I know some companies still do. I was at Synopsys, we had a QA team, and I can tell you the process was just what I was talking about, and it's awful, right? It doesn't make sense. Because as soon as you say, this is the AppSec team, it becomes that team's responsibility to do AppSec, right? And that's just wrong. At least if you agree with my hypothesis here, the AppSec team should not be the team that's doing AppSec. You can't put it on a team. It doesn't work. In the long term, again, we're talking future, it doesn't work. It doesn't scale. It doesn't actually get us where we want to be, which is shipping code faster and more securely. So this is what I think. This is just my opinion. It's just what I've been thinking about for the last couple years. We need to get rid of the AppSec team. And what does it need to be? Well, we have to distribute it. And that doesn't mean, hey, this is your job now, right? It's taking something and inverting it. Think about operations. If operations said, hey, developers, actually, you're going to build your servers now, good luck. You're going to go find a box, and you're going to install the operating system, and you're going to check the boxes. No, that doesn't work. Of course not. What happened was we changed the way that we provision servers, and now everyone can do it for themselves, to some extent. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about distributing AppSec. It's thinking about how do we turn this around so that actually everyone can do it. Okay, getting ahead of myself. Of course, we have to automate everything that you can. Anything that can be automated, automate it. I don't think that that's controversial. And then the last point here, AppSec must be democratized. And I don't mean that everyone gets to vote about AppSec. What I mean is the same as what I said before, where everyone has access to it. Everyone can run scans, see results. As Nathan mentioned earlier in his talk, look at bug bounty reports, incoming bug bounty reports. Everyone can look at them. Everyone can see the alerts. Everyone has access to that information and can do that work. That's democratizing the work. Contrast that to, there's a security team over there, they run the tools, they have access to the reports, they get the alerts, and if they need me, I'll be over here, they can open a ticket, right? We're trying to get away from that. That's what I mean by democratizing. Okay. Just a reminder, because I wanted to make sure we got this, to make this work, AppSec work needs to either disappear, we need to just figure out a new way of doing it, or it needs to be integrated into developers' daily work. Pull requests are an excellent way to integrate things into, or excellent place to integrate things into a developer's daily work. But you think about it like how QA became daily work. I write code, I write tests for it. It's just part of my job now. That's what I do. And they're better for it. Or 3, needs to be some kind of actionable alerts that happen automatically and go to the correct people, which is not usually the security team. Okay, a couple things I just want to encourage you to do to help get to this future. The people in this room have the security expertise that is needed in things like web frameworks, in libraries. I don't want to see another new hot web framework that's completely missing all the security controls that we've built up and refined over the last however many years. That needs to stop happening. And the way it stops happening is for us to get involved, right? Oh, this is cool. Great. Do you have HTML escaping in your templating library that you're using? Do you have parameterized queries? Do you have CSRF protection? CSRF protection built in is like, you have to have that now. You can't call yourself a real web framework without having that built in and automatic where developers don't worry about it, etc. And then the second point is, look, developers, they still are not receiving the information, okay? And I think when I look at security resources, and I'm not thinking about anything in particular, but just the times that I have gone to look for security resources, I feel like this is not really like developer friendly. This is not approachable by someone who doesn't already know what's going on with whatever the security thing is. So I encourage you, in whatever way you can or you feel comfortable, please contribute. That's how we're going to be able to get to this kind of future without saying, okay, we need a team of people with this expertise because no one else can figure this stuff out. All right. I think I have like beaten this enough, but this is again just what I've been thinking about and kind of the frustration point that I reached. And I left SurveyMonkey because my company was acquired by Synopsys, and I went and worked at Synopsys, and I wasn't doing security. But at the same time, I was like, I'm really just kind of tired of, I feel like I'm just on this treadmill, and I don't have the time to do the things that I want to do to really make an impact security-wise. And I think part of that's because we're doing it wrong in some way, right? And I hope that this has encouraged you to think about how you're doing security, or how your company's, not you, but how your company is doing security, right? And how your friends are doing security and how they're wrong. And think about like, okay, what are the fundamental changes we can make, not just at our company, but in the industry, to fix this? And then you can come back and give a talk on how you did that and how successful you were, and that will be wonderful. Okay, I'm done. Please contact me on Twitter is the best way. All my talks are on my website. Yes, I go by President Beef. No, I will not tell you where it came from. But these slides aren't there yet, but they will be. And all my talks are there for your enjoyment or amusement. Thank you very much for coming.